So this morning we have come out to a really lovely garden here in Kent. It's called Sissinghurst Castle. It was a former prison and it was also home to Vita Sackville West, who was the last owner of this beautiful property before it passed into the hands of the National Trust. The site that Sissinghurst Castle Garden sits on was once a Saxon pig farm. It would have been originally called Saxonhurst, with Hurst having meant woodland. During the Tudor period, it was used as a prison for up to 3,000 French sailors who were captured by the British during the 7 Years' War between 1756 to 1763. Held for months at a time in vile, stinking conditions, the prisoners lived in cells with little access to fresh air, clean water, or adequate food supplies. The sailors, I imagine, rather sarcastically, referred to Sissinghurst as Le Chateau, hence castle being adopted into its name later on, although not a direct translation. Fast forward to when Vita and her husband Harold Nicholson bought Sissinghurst in early 1930, it looked quite different to the present day. The buildings were used to house farm workers. The current famous garden had yet to be laid out and was mostly used to grow vegetables for workers. None of the buildings were inhabitable, and the grounds were full of rubbish. Old sardine tins, cabbage stalks, rusty bedsteads littered the ground. None of this mattered to Vita, who saw its great potential. She wrote, "I fell in love at first sight. I saw what might be made of it. It was Sleeping Beauty's castle." Vita, a poet and writer, began transforming Sissinghurst Castle in the 1930s with her diplomat and author husband Harold. Harold's architectural planning of the gardens and the colourful, abundant planting in the gardens by Vita reflect the romance and intimacy of her poems and writings. I have to say, Sissinghurst is one of my favourite gardens here in Kent, and I highly recommend a visit.
There's one I can see past, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't hold this rest at all, a bit wobbly.
Yeah. So about the werewolf bubbles.
What about the wibble wobbles?
So this morning we have come to a really small, quirky little cottage called Smallhythe Place here in Kent. It was home to Ellen Terry, the famous Shakespearean actress. Smallhythe Place has a long and varied history. It has existed as a simple working farm. It's existed as one of the most significant shipyards in medieval England. It has also been a family home. Today is known as being the home of distinguished Victorian actress Dame Ellen Terry. Ellen led an extraordinary and unconventional life. She was the leading figure of Shakespearean drama, giving unrivaled performances of his iconic female leads throughout a career spanning 65 years. Ellen instantly fell in love with Smallhythe Place when she was riding through from Rye, which you saw a few minutes ago, to Tenterden, with fellow actor Henry Irving. She asked to be told if it were ever to become available to buy. Some years later, in 1899, a postcard with a Tenterden postmark was sent to Ellen's Chelsea house with a brief message: "House for sale." Later that year, she purchased Smallhythe Place and lived there happily for almost 30 years. For Ellen, Smallhythe Place was a retreat away from her busy acting career in London. She took great joy in escaping to the countryside and tending to her much-loved daffodilly farm, as she called it, where she found peace and solace in contrast to city life. Immediately after Ellen's death in 1928, her daughter Edie transformed the house into a memorial museum to commemorate her mother's remarkable life and career. She left Ellen's bedroom very much as it had been, but used the sitting room and the dining room for historical displays. She also converted the late 17th century thatched barn in the garden into a theatre, which still holds performances to this day. Something I would very much love to go and see one day. That's Heidi, running around, barefoot as always.
And I think the views